Hello, Kansas City, and welcome to our pilot episode of Alegria, Kansas City. I'm excited to do this, and I've been looking forward to this first episode. It is featuring my dear friend, Jackson County Executive Frank White. You know him possibly as the Kansas City Royals' legendary second baseman. 18 years, 5 All-Star games, and 2 World Series. Without any further ado, let's turn to our guest, Frank White. Hi, Frank. How are you?
Fabian, how are you doing this afternoon?
Fantastic. Thank you for doing this.
Well, it's my pleasure. My pleasure always.
I could not think of a better first guest to have. You know, a homegrown Kansas Citian, spent his career here with the Kaufman family and with the Kansas City Royals. He moved from the stadium just a few blocks away to the biggest seat in Jackson County, now the Jackson County Executive. So you have been a public figure for basically most of your life, haven't you?
Well, really, it's been since I put my first leg through my first pair of baseball pants when I went out to play in Kaufman Stadium. I think once you do that, then you're in the public eye every night, you know, playing baseball and making people happy and talking to kids and making kids happy. Just anything, it's all revolves around making people happy. So it's been that way for my entire life, yes.
Fantastic. Now, I got to think from my perspective, having not been in that public light, there's got to be a difference where you are now because it's a more serious role that you're in.
Right.
And so playing baseball, people don't rely on you to make the decisions you have to make. What was the transition like for you?
It was from transition from people to people is good. That people transitions are always good for me because I like people. I like being around people. And when I decided to run for public office, it was mainly because I was just curious why things weren't getting done. How can you make things better? And then you always see, growing up in Kansas City, you always see things that been the same for a lot of years, and you wonder why that they can't get changed. Why do you don't have funding for this and funding for that? And so I just decided I'd run for office and get in there and find out firsthand why these things can or can't happen.
So you did the first time, and were you elected the first time? Or
I was elected the first time, yes.
Okay, so you did the first election, and you enjoyed the abuse so much you wanted to come back and do it another time?
No, actually I spent my first year on the legislature, and when the previous county executive resigned, then my colleagues on the legislature appointed me to this position. And so it's just been appointment, election, and here I am going into my 6th year.
Wow. So having run for office myself and being elected to an office, I think it was a little bit different than what you had to go through. I had to knock on doors and greet people on their doorstep and you know, go walk in parades and things like that. Did you have to do any of that?
I did exactly the same thing. I knocked on doors, I cold called, I was in parades, and you try to be in situations where people can see you. They see you not just as a baseball player, but they see you as someone who genuinely cares about his community and want to make it better. And really the difference I saw was when I put on the political hat was just getting used to other elected officials and trying to interact with other elected officials and trying to get from point A to point Z and get something done. And sometimes it's painful going through those transitions, but I think in the end, when you're helping people, I think that's what makes it all worth it.
Fantastic. Well, you know, a former weatherman, meteorologist from here in Kansas City, he's now elected in Kansas, and he went door knocking. And in fact, I had someone come to me and say, Fabian, you know who was at my house? I used to watch him in my PJs when I was a kid. What was it like? Was that your experience?
Well, I had a dual experience. You're knocking on doors. Usually it's around the dinner time, and people are coming to the door. They can't believe it's you at the door. Some want your autograph. Some want to talk baseball. Some wants to know what your platform is. And so it's sort of a mixed bag of emotions when these things happen. But I think once you show people how genuine you are and how much you really care about the position you're running for, how you care about your community, how you want to give back to your community, then I think that's what wins people over. Because you have to be genuine, you have to be yourself, and I think people can tell when something is fake. And so I try to be as real as I can, try to have fun, try to show that I do have a sense of humor that goes along with everything else. And and I don't take myself too serious. I just want to be able to do the job. I think being a baseball player first and having success as a baseball player and growing up here in Kansas City, I think that helped me when I went into this position, because I didn't go into this position to get pats on the back. I went in this position to make the people around me better, and then try to better the really the quality of life for the people that work for Jackson County and the people that live within Jackson County. Just whatever I can do to improve their quality of life, that's what I was all about.
Fantastic. Well, one of the things you did for the people that work for Jackson County this past summer, you signed an order making Juneteenth a county holiday. I thought that was long overdue. I thought it was fantastic. There really isn't a holiday that we have in this country to recognize the emancipation. Did people give you positive feedback about that?
You get a lot of positive feedback because that's community-based, and I think that being a Black American, you always tend to always wonder why these things aren't happening for African American people in your community or world or over the United States. And when you're in a position that you can make some things happen, that you try to bring focus to those things and try to build on them every year going forward until it becomes part of what this city is all about. And Juneteenth is, like you say, 1865, and it was the emancipation of slavery, and I just really believe that we have to keep building on that. And you saw a lot this year with Black Lives Matter protests and so forth. And I think more Black Americans now are looking for leadership at the top, not the standard leadership, but leadership that's going to look at the community and say, this is what our community needs. Even though sometimes it's painful, we do have to deal with these issues.
Well, I think you demonstrated great leadership, and then I commend you for doing that. Another thing that we haven't seen go forward due to some of the issues that we had with the pandemic was the memorial. And it's a memorial in a critical area where people do need encouragement, in an area where you might say that prior to your being there, many people in Kansas City forgot. Do you want to talk about that, please?
Well, I grew up in that area myself. I grew up at 29th and Olive, and we have what we call pocket parks that Jackson County owns within the Kansas City limits. And the Leon M. Jordan Park is there at 31st and Benton, celebrating the great Leon Jordan, who, since we've built a police patrol center after the East Patrol, and he's got a statue there. And working with the legislature a couple of years ago, we decided to take it a step further. It was just a statue of Leon M. Jordan sitting there for a long time, and it's a place that people can go to meditate and think and about things. So the idea was to find 100 names in our community that's really contributed to the civil rights movement in Kansas City. And they had a committee that was charged with picking these names, and then we put these names on the wall, so it's really a nice memorial for folks to go see. It's a Freedom and Justice Memorial Wall, and I think that's a great place for young kids in school to have field trips. They can go and they can select a name. They can do a paper on these names, get to know who these people are, and it really was a fun thing for me to do.
Sounds like a fun thing to do. Now, speaking of memorials and being memorialized, you have a statue. I don't know many people that have statues. And that's pretty cool, wouldn't you say? It had to be cool for you when they uncovered that thing.
Well, cool and unbelievable at the same time. Yeah.
So, did you ever imagine yourself, every young boy that plays sports dreams of, hitting that base hit or that home run,
right.
Walk-off thing. Did you ever imagine yourself, not just in baseball, but rising to the level? You are the leader of the county, not just Kansas City, but the entire county. I don't think you could have imagined that would be possible when you were a kid.
Never thought about it.
I mean, so many things have changed. We have come a long way. But what about baseball? You had to have those fantasies of, jacking one off of Don Drysdale or something when you were watching baseball as a kid?
Well, baseball's always been part of my DNA. It's part of my parents. My dad was a baseball player. He loved baseball. We went to games together, and he really got me involved in it. And at 9 years old, I got really more serious about it. But it really wasn't until I was about 12 years old, and I was playing on one of the best teams in the league. And after the third game, I hadn't played. So in the middle of the third game, he just grabbed me by the shoulder and says, "Come on, we out of here." And so, 12 years old, you're kicking and screaming, and you wonder what the heck's going on. And so I get home, and I finally asked him, I said, "Why'd you take me off the team?" And he says, "Well, do you love baseball?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "Well, do you understand baseball?" And being 12, you're going to say yes to pretty much all that. And he said, "Well, how can you love baseball and understand baseball when you don't play?" And so I didn't have an answer for that. And so he took me and put me on the worst team. And I played every day. Didn't win, but I played every day. And that's when I realized that I really had a passion to play baseball. And that's really the best lesson that I've ever been taught in baseball, is that if you're gonna enjoy it, if you're gonna have a passion for it, then you have to participate. So it's hard to participate on the sideline. You're either going to be a cheerleader or you're going to be one of those ones that are going to be actually performing and try to get something done. And that's what I like about baseball.
Sure. Now, okay, I heard Tim Tebow speak, and you talked about passion there. I think the athletes that rise to the highest level, they've got that fire in the belly. They've got that passion. And Tim Tebow talked about the fact that he played on a team where the coach was trying to tell him that winning didn't matter. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" Did you ever have that experience where somebody told you it didn't matter whether you won or lost?
Winning always matters. In Little League, coaches, I think we say these things to help these young kids understand the game a little bit better, and everybody wants to have fun, and you tell kids, "Go out, let's have fun, let's enjoy the game." But you don't understand, kids are different. Kids have this mechanism that if somebody says play ball and you got somebody on the other side you're playing, you're trying to win the game. Now, when the game is over, they'll forget it very quickly, but they actually are trying to win the game and have fun at the same time. So, yeah, winning builds character a lot better than the other way, I think. But I just think that the other way makes you analyze better, and you try to figure out how to make it work in your favor the next time around. So both ways have their positives to them. But I think that when you win and you keep building on that winning and you keep associating yourself with winners, I think it rubs off on you.
Fantastic. Well, I've got lots of questions. I just need to look at the producer and see if we've got time before the break here. Are we good? We're good? Before the break?
El break, okay? Yeah, we're going to make a break right now.
Okay.
So continue recording, and then he will make a break.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like we have time before the break. I'm going to give you one more question, and then we'll throw it to break here.
Okay.
So with that in mind, I remember watching that 1980. I remember watching that, and when you made it to the first World Series.
Oh, boy.
We made it. Kansas City made it. And I just remember Kansas City going bananas.
Yes.
What was that like? You played all those seasons to finally get there.
It's almost like a weight that falls off your shoulders, because 162 game season, and I think that is the most difficult thing to do, is to win a 102 game season and finish first. When you get into the playoffs and the World Series, whichever team is playing best at that time is going to win. So really, it was just the excitement of knowing that you're going to be in the World Series, the excitement of the fans, the excitement of the city, and so you start to carry all that with you going into that series, because you have so many people focused on you winning the World Series. You have so many people focused on the same thing, and they want to see you be successful. And you just want to take that on the field, but you want to have to put it in a place in your mind where you know it's there, but you're not focused on that. You focus just on winning the game, and then when you get to that seventh game or that fourth game, whichever game it takes for you to win the series, then that's when it all comes out. That's when all the emotion comes out, and sometimes you have no real way of even dealing with it. It just pours out of you, and you're just excited, and you just tell yourself, job well done.
Well, we're going to go a little over because I got to ask
Okay.
this question. It had to feel special doing it against the Yankees. It had to be special.
Yeah, I think the Yankees. I think it brought out the best in us too. I think those three consecutive losses in the playoffs really weighed on us, and I know in 1980 playing the Yankees again, and the biggest pressure I felt was every time I went somewhere, people would say, "You guys can't let them do it again. You can't let them beat you again." And so that pressure builds up, because you don't want it to happen either. And I remember before game one, the night before, I just couldn't sleep. It was an afternoon game, and so I got up and I said, I got to go to the ballpark. It was like 6, 7 in the morning. And she took me to the ballpark. I climbed on the training table and slept like a baby at that point because I figured that's where I need to be. And really, I think it really just was a mindset going in, and I ended up being the MVP of the series, and we beat the Yankees in 3 games. And we're on to the World Series, which was pretty exciting.
Fantastic. Good stuff. We're going to talk about that MVP too.
Okay.
So we will be right back with our friend Frank White after this break.
Hi, I'm Aaron. It sounds like an echo in here. No, it doesn't. Yes? Let's try it. Baloney! Baloney! I don't think it's legit. Yes, it is. Listen. Baloney! Baloney! I still don't think it's legit. Let's use it in a sentence. The Raiders are a good football team. Baloney! It's legit.
Hey, welcome back to Alegria, Kansas City. I'm Fabian Shepard, speaking with our guest, Frank White. Now, Frank, before we went into that break, you were talking about your MVP in the league championship series in 1980, and you jacked a home run in the old Yankee Stadium. That thing went so high and so far, it should have had a stewardess on it. I mean, that thing was incredible. I often joke that you hit that home run so far that Tommy John had to have surgery on his arm after that pitch.
Again.
So what did that feel like doing that in the Bronx? I mean,
It really felt good, and I really enjoyed playing in New York. I mean, I love going to the East Coast to play Boston, New York, and Yankee Stadium was one of my favorite places to play. And we were up 2-0. And when I hit that home run early off Tommy John, it put us ahead in the game and got us going toward winning that third game. Even though the game ended up being really dramatic in the end, but that home run really got us going, and I was really glad to be able to really contribute in the ball game.
yeah, they were pretty energized then. I know Thurman Munson had died just shortly before that, and the team was fired up. And I got to ask you, after losing that one, how hard was it for you to not make it back to the World Series? I mean, we saw the Royals do it, lose it, and then come back again, the new Royals, or the new incarnation of the Royals. What was it like for you guys to not make it right back?
Well, after the 80 loss, it was hard because you don't know if you're going to get that second chance again. And when you go through it that first time, there's a lot of things you wish you could have done better, always. And so you just hope that you had a good ball club, that the guys are going to stay together, and you will eventually get an opportunity to get back. And in 1984, we brought up some really good young pitchers in Saberhagen and Gubazar and Danny Jackson and those guys. And in 84, we went to the playoffs and we lost to Detroit. And then the next year was 85, then we came back and went to the World Series in 85. So just being able to get back there again, and you really felt comfortable that you knew how to handle yourself and control your emotions and your adrenaline and all the stuff that goes with it. And you really had confidence that you could win the World Series. And we didn't get off to a great start. We was down 3-0, not only in that playoff series, but we also came back and we were down 3-0 in the World Series.
That's right.
And so your character really had to be on display game by game until you got till you tied it up and went ahead and won Game 7 in both series. So it was very traumatic at times. It was very exciting all the time, but when you win it, it's like, man, we came back from 3-0 down in the playoffs. We came back from 3-0 down in the World Series. You know, what team has ever done that? And we did it against a good Blue Jays team. We did it against a great Cardinal team. And so to win the World Series against your cross-state rivals was really, really special to us.
Well, that was really important to the fans, too. Every time I went to St. Louis, I let them know. And they let me know Don Dinkinger's name. We didn't even know the umpire's name, but they'll never forget it.
They'll never forget. You're right. You're right.
I remember that going back to 1980 when Tug McGraw threw that final pitch and my heart sunk. And I going and seeing your friends, and it was just like, man, there's just a solemn, I guess, atmosphere over Kansas City. But then in 1985, when you made it to the World Series, it was fascinating. Yeah. I mean, Kansas City was ready.
They were stoked. They were ready, and I think they're more ready because it was St. Louis. And I think being St. Louis,
yes,
with St. Louis being our rival, that really got this state going. I tell you, we had some great times, and there was a lot of great comments. There was a lot of great moments throughout the state that people were highlighting, and between here and Columbia was Kansas City, and from Columbia, half of Columbia East was St. Louis, and everybody at the University of Missouri was going nuts. So it was great. The riverboats started running again. The trains, the Amtrak, and we wanted to take the train back and do whistle stops in all these little towns, but they wouldn't let us do it. They was like, oh, let's ride a riverboat home. No, they wouldn't do that either.
That would have been a blast.
Yeah, so we wanted to do everything. It was fun. It was fun.
Okay, so let's put your Jackson County executive hat back on for a moment, because the one thing I remember, I was living at 5325 Rock Hill Road at the time at UMKC, and I remember when you won the World Series, when our Royals won, you could not drive from 53rd and Rock Hill all the way to downtown. There were people dancing in the streets. They were selling beer on the corners. There were newspapers already out being handed out. People were having a party, and nobody got shot. That was like, it wasn't like we were in Detroit, you know. Right. Nobody got shot.
Right.
That was something that I can still say, even when you look at the Royals winning this time, and then when the Chiefs won, we had those big parades, and Kansas City was a safe experience. You know, people turning over cars and burning things. Doesn't that make you proud to be a Kansas Citian when you see things like that?
It really does, because when you win a World Series or you win a Super Bowl, it's about love. You know, you love your team, you love your players, you love your city, you love each other. I mean, you love the people who are supporting this whole effort, and that's the way it should be. And the way the crowds conducted themselves at the World Series, how they conducted themselves at Union Station for the Chiefs celebration. I mean, you can't ask for better representation of a community and of a city itself. And that should have been really just one of those, a tip to us and to you and to a lot of people that talked to me. It was recognized. It was so noticeable. 800,000 people, you know, and no incidents. Or I mean, it was just really cool to see our community and our city come together like that.
Yes, you know, that was fantastic then, and I'm sure you appreciate it at this time, sitting in the chair that you're in, and you know, I'm sure Rick Smith appreciated it too, our chief of police.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, because you know, we've spent time together, and I've watched you speak. One thing I've noticed about Frank White is you are a natural teacher. You enjoy teaching, you enjoy coaching. In fact, I remember having you at the college, and the kids were there to interview you, and one of them asked you a question about baseball, and you got into a stance and showed him, you know, it was fantastic. Right. So is it hard for you to not do that regularly?
No, it's easy. You know, when you're a kid, you know, at age you get to where everything you say, they will say why. You know,
yes.
And I felt the same way as a baseball player. Once I'm talking in front of a group, and the questions asked about baseball, and or about a certain play, then I'm telling myself, this is, I give them the answer. I say, this is why. and then I say, this is how, and then I just try to show them how it works.
Okay, I want to ask you this because you and Kaufman brought on someone later in your career, Avron Fogelman.
Yes.
And I remember when Mr. Fogelman got involved with the Royals, he did something that hadn't been done before. He offered some lifetime contracts. And who got those contracts, those lifetime contracts?
Those contracts went to George Brett, Willie Wilson, and Dan Quisenberry.
And not Frank White.
Not Frank White.
Not
no.
Frank White. Did that bother you at all?
You know, you always want to be looked at as sort of a big cog in the wheel of making things turn for your ball club. But at that time, I was probably, I want to say 34, maybe, I think about 34 years old. So I can see what they were looking at. You got a new owner coming in. He's buying a team. He wants to make sure he has the core group of that team sewed up. And Willie was younger. George was George, and Quiz was coming on. So I can see why they want to tie those guys up and keep those guys with the ball club. I mean, I didn't have any animosity toward that particular situation because I pretty much understood it. I just wanted to see what the direction the team was going, what kind of players we were going to have, what we're going to be competitive. And so that was probably 83, I want to say. And then 84, we were in the playoffs. 85, we were in the World Series. And so, I mean, I was okay with that.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. Did Mr. Kaufman say anything to you about it?
No,
Did you discuss it?
No. I mean, I think they all got lifetime contracts. I think I got a 2-year extension on my contract, and we just sort of went on from there.
Okay. Well, I can tell you had a different experience. You were the first Kansas City Royal Academy graduate
Yes.
To make it to the major leagues, and that had to be exciting. Would you please tell the story about when Mr. Kaufman invited you to join that? I love that story.
Well, at first I had to go to a 2-day tryout
Okay.
at the old stadium to go to this school to begin with, and then I. After the second day, they said, we want you to go to Florida to be part of this academy baseball team they were putting together. And at the time, I was married, had my son, I was making $100 a week. And I asked, and then when the chauffeur came over to the house, his name was Blanchy. And when Blanche came up to the door, knocked on the door, and he said, well, Mr. Kaufman would like to talk to you. And so I said, well, okay, where is he? He said, he's in the car. So, he drives up in our neighborhood. He's got this big blue limousine, and everybody's coming out of the house to see who's who. And so I come out to the car, and he opens the door, and I look in the car, and I said, where's Mr. Kaufman? He said, well, he's on the phone. I didn't have a clue what a car phone was.
Of course, the only person that had one was Banachek or Mannix.
So I get in the limo, and he shuts the door, and so all my friends and neighbors are all circled around the car, wondering what's going on. And so I'm on the phone, and he says, well, I would love to have you go to this school and be part of the Royals Baseball Academy. And I said, Mr. Kaufman, I said, well, how much does it pay? And he says, well, it pays $50 a month. And I said, oh my goodness, this is not going to work. So he says, no. He said, really, it's $48.50 after taxes. So I said, it's really not going to work at this point. And so he said, yeah, I really want you to go. He said, well, we'll your wife can move in with your parents, and they gave her a job at the stadium in the ticket office, and so I was on my way to Florida. I mean, but the one thing that really always stands out during that time is that when you have a dream and your spouse knows you have a dream, or your girlfriend or your best friend, whoever it could be, the key thing is support. And I think that what really propelled me to do this was when I talked to my wife about it. She said, listen, I just don't want to live with you the rest of my life and have you say, what if? And
Right.
So she said, you go, you try it, and we'll see what happens after that. So just having that support really makes a big difference.
Well, so is that the one takeaway? I mean, you're a Kansas City kid, grew up here, played in your hometown before hundreds of thousands of fans over the years. Now you're the big boss. You are Tom Pendergast now. Without bending the
Notice
rules.
I did this, right?
Without bending the rules so much. Why don't you give us one takeaway here, if you would let the folks know the one thing you've learned. I mean, 70 years, 71 years of life. What would you share with folks?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that people are important. People's quality of life is important. And I think this job, I love this job because this job is all about helping people. It's all about making your community better, your county better. And I think that even though the last year, 2020, was a very complicated year for everyone, we all had to learn how to be told what we can't do. And people in America don't like to be told what they can't do. And the decisions that you have to make during those times, you really don't take them lightly because you know how it's going to affect people emotionally, business, schools, jobs. You can go right on down the line of all the things that would really rate as a negative. But I think that getting to this point, getting people through the first year, seeing some daylight at the end of the tunnel, I think that I could feel the energy coming back. I can feel this little ray of hope that people had pretty much lost, because people need hope. Even though it's imperfect at times, you still need to have something to hope for. And I think that right now, with the vaccines going the way they're going, people taking the shots, more people getting vaccinated, I think that as we move forward the next few months, I think the confidence level of everyone is coming back. And I think everybody's praying for a great spring. Spring training is going on. And what spring training always signals the start of spring, the start of it starts everything positive. And I think that our folks in the county, in Kansas City, I think they really are looking forward to opening day in baseball. I think if we hadn't had the Chiefs playing last fall, if we hadn't had the Royals playing last summer at all, I think it would have been much worse. Baseball and sports in general, it seems to be a good tonic for a lot of things that aren't going right at the time, but it gives you that outlet that you can go and you can root for something good, and you can have a positive outcome, and then you just take it from there.
I love it. I love it. And with that, we're going to come to the close of our very first episode of Alegria. I want to thank you very much for doing this for me.
Thank you.
And we're going to say farewell to our friend Frank White. And I hope you will join us here again for another episode of Alegria, Kansas City. I'm Fabian Shepard. Thank you very much.